that by 18.8, so nearly 19, I beg your pardon. But essentially, we are already busy.
They certainly are. Well, just at this early part of the climb, you can just see those snaking hairpin bends. Many riders already suffering, having been dropped by the peloton. It's around some of the peaks, well, some of the gradients around these corners, around 16%. And you can just see the speed has really been knocked off. Lots of riders now getting detached, but interesting to see those two orange jerseys near the front. But it is still one of the riders from Trek Segafredo. Maybe Andre Cardoso, Feline is there. Hernandez, who's been the lieutenant for Alberto Contador for so long. Whatever team he is, he generally comes along. And it is actually Hernandez, he basically trains with Alberto Contador, and that's Steve Morabito on the front now for FDJ, looking very, very strong indeed. Perhaps an indicator that, you know, we talked about Pinot, perhaps Thibaut Pinot feeling pretty good, but Steve Morabito, great climber, also really good time trialist as well.
Likewise, they're rack full of time trialists. Thibaut Pinot, not a bad time trialist himself, sort of turned that round as a capability. Sebastian Reichenbach as well last year in the Tirreno Adriatico just really pulled one out of the bag on the time trial. It's a short time trial that waits on stage 3, so if they can get their a good climbing result, a good result on a climbing day, which is today, and of course tomorrow, which is the most brutal climbing day. You want brutal though, just check what's happening. We've seen some pretty decent riders being shelled out of the back. In fact, while we were on the break, we were sort of gasping at who had been left behind, essentially, and it's not pretty. Tobias Ludvigsen are part of this grouping right now, and there's plenty more as well. Johan Lebon, Francis de Geur, they are running out of teammates, so I guess best form of defence is possibly attack, and that's what they're doing at the moment. This is that little downhill section. Remember, we said there was a kick, little downhill run to get some pace, and then the climb starts proper any moment now.
Indeed, real infernal pace, as I said, being set at the front. It looks like it's still Steve Morabito really stringing these riders out. As I said, Morabito can climb well. He also was, over the last couple of years, as we've seen FDJ become more of a force in the team time trial, a really integral part of their team time trial squad, so can really turn on the power at the front. You can just see the ranks of the Movistar's team moving up to the front as well. They're in the navy blue of Alejandro Valverde, of course. And then we see Trek Segafredo just moving up the outside to give a little bit of assistance with the pacemaking now.
Also moving through, actually, once you group Gobert, and they're short-handed here. They've got Mark McNally, who I just love watching him wrestle on a quickish end to a day.
He likes a breakaway, doesn't he?
He does. Well, if he can get over the top here, McNally, if he happens to be in there, and the motorcycle making use of himself, very technical transition over a pinch point, which is a bridge, as you can see, over the old mountain runoff. It's full of plants at the moment, and a few happy frogs, but I'm afraid that's usually a real storm gully, and right now there is a thunderclap ringing over these guys, and still CCC Spandi Polkovici with Grosshartner towards the front. I think it's Masej Petersky that's leading. We'll get confirmation on that, guiding him into a position. They are attack-minded. It's almost as if they were expecting Movistar to get involved, and everyone else has ganged up on them and possibly neutralised them with the very pace that we've got as Jaime Zubeldia hits the front right now. They're not hanging around.
They certainly aren't. Zubeldia, great rider. Not knocking on the door of 40 years of age, but a real strong climber, keeping the pace very, very high. Then you've got the two CCC Sprandi Polkovici riders in that bright orange. And then I think we still got Steve Morabito. I think Morabito has swung off. It is definitely one of the riders from FDJ at the head of affairs. I think as every pedal revolution is being turned, this group is getting slimmer and slimmer, and this is where the gradient, Carlton, really starts to pick up.
Well, Antonio Nibali at the back here, and as you can see, it's a brutal place to be. There's no hiding place at all. You can't sort of get out of once you're knocked out of the back. It gets very, very difficult. CCC Sprandi hit it once again, and here comes Valverde with his boys. They've done a great driving job. Izagirre has decided to hit it on his behalf. 26.4 kilometers to go, and still they get shelled. As you can see, he almost cast down the mountain. Zubeldia had that drive in. That was him done and dusted for the day. That's Antonio Nibali who's just coming through for Bahrain. We were hoping to see Jon Izagirre shouting loud and proud. Izagirre, a man who can climb, he can time trial, he can probably, I don't know, throw a pot for you if you so desire. He's multi-talented. Thomas Mashinsky, the Pole as well, riding next to former teammates from CCC Sprandi at the moment, also suffering. We said there was going to be a big shellout today. I didn't think it would happen this early on the approach to the climb. I thought it'd be on its climb itself, but there's going to be a lot of wounded riders time-wise here.
There certainly is. When you look at David Lopez, who had a great Tour of Valencia, sat high overall, and he's a very, very classy climber. He's already been detached. The group's still about 50 riders strong, but riders dropping off the back all of the time.
26.2 kilometres to go. It is an absolute grind. That's Delapart, Victor, or maybe victory in the offing for Movistar with a green M that's become sort of like a python laid across their chests. They've blown up the M so it's almost indistinct, but at least the colours are still there for us and for you at home as well. Have been a few changes. Watch out for Contador in red, not the leader's jersey, might be at the end of the day, you never know, but he's now of course with Trek Zagafredo, and he's got Fabio Fellini riding alongside him. Well, here we are. That's Masius Paterski. He had done a lot of the approach work. We were right for Sprandi Polkovici, and that little engine room that that role he took on has now resulted in this. He's struggling out at the back. Count Grosshartner still carry the flame in the orange. There he is, about P7. Great livery to pick out, isn't it?
You can pick it out from a mile off, like the Euskadi Basque Country team, and of course Canadel Drapac. We need to give them their full name, the Canadel Drapacers. Apologies for not doing that earlier on, but I think starting to really thin out. And just look at the pace now. It really has slowed down as the gradient's starting to bite. Great riding by Movistar. Wout Poels also there for Team Sky in the black.
Great to see. Well, Poles have come here with Diego Rosa, by the way, who's debuting for Team Sky. I think he's probably a good bet. Well, Poles just a little bit further back, but Rosa's also making a nuisance of himself. Also good to see in here, I think that's Steph Clement. It is, in fact, it's at Flores de Tir for Team Lotto Jumbo. Flores de Tir, I beg your pardon, around 7th place back. Is that Oran as well?
Oran is
he's
also there.
Well, we said he's either on or off, and he's clearly up for it today.
Well, Oran looking very good, turning that gear very, very nicely. As you said, the rider sat in second wheel at the moment is the Italian Diego Rosa of Team Sky. Well, Poles also of Team Sky is in the mix. Hernandez is there. Another rider in the mix is looking pretty well. He's the on-form, or the in-form Fabio Fellini of Italy. He's very near to Alberto Contador. This group thinning down, and also it's a message. Definitely, he sent Morabito to the front. Thibaut Pinot sat in about 5th or 6th wheel with his jersey unzipped. Very warm conditions. That's Fellini there with Alberto Contador on his wheel.
Well, Fellini just pulls to one side, and Bertie it is that just starts to bounce in his familiar style. And whenever he does this and he starts to look back and into people's faces, it's usually a precursor to an attack. Well, we asked for action, and that's exactly what we've got. The danger man here, to my mind, is possibly Rigoberto Oran, wearing the green of Cannondale, because when he's in the sort of mood that he's in today, he's a very, very good descender as well. He used to be a fantastic time trialist. That's kind of gone to one side, really, in a pure time trialing day. But on a day like this, he's got a chance to excel. Will he, when we come off the ski ramp finish and then have that flat run home and into Granada? It would be a great many scalps that he would take as Bertie continues to play the looking into the faces game.
Well, it's rolling. It's got that funny rolling style. Look on the left-hand side there, Alejandro Valverde turning quite a big gear. Looks like he's about to attack.
Bertie goes for it. He has a look. Poels also comes in, and Alberto Contador, he saw that Valverde was starting to make a move, and he thought, right, this is a chance to test out just what Alejandro Valverde, does he earn this race? Not when I'm around, says Alberto Contador, and he's got a gap here, and in fact nobody can stay with him. Poels goes off, 25.1 kilometres to go. If he gets over the top here, this could be an enormous opening gambit for Alberto Contador, and nobody's minded to go with him for the time being. He will crest in about 7 kilometres time, and the way it's looking at the moment, there's nobody minded to get back to him. Now, will they hold the tempo? Sky are used to doing that. Oran, though, to my mind, it remains the danger here. He's in P4 at the moment. Bertie's gone alone.
This is a fantastic attack by Alberto Contador. We know the type of rider he is. He attacks, he's pugnacious, he's feeling good. He's already very, very happy with the Trek Segafredo setup. He's on a brand new Project One Trek in the livery of his wins in the 3 Grand Tours. Of course, 2 Tour de France wins, 2 Giro d'Italia wins, 3 Vuelta wins. He's absolutely flying up this climb at the moment.
Here, trying to bridge, make it over. I don't know whether it is Bart Pauls. We'll have a look in a few moments' time. Don't think it is. There is Contador at the moment, though. He's been out of sight, and it was great to see him go on the attack as soon as he was out of vision of everybody else. But here is the chase. I think it's Valverde that's onto him at the moment. That was 24.7 to go. The 2 out-and-out favourites for the race, duking it out at the top. What a way to start this fantastic race, the Vuelta Andalucia. We've still got just under 25 kilometres to go, and it's as if they're racing for the finish line. Effectively, that's exactly what it is. As soon as they go over the top here of the Monachil, don't be surprised if these guys share duties and then duke it out for a sprint finish between the pair of the great riders.
Well, Carlton, they've still got 4.5 kilometres to go this climb. Contador really feeling good. Valverde, 2 remarkably different styles, but look at the gap they've opened up on the rest of that group. I think Walt Poles is in there, but did you see the face of Alberto Contador? That big stinging attack from Contador is hurting him. But again, this is where it ramps up to 16, nearly 17% gradient. 2 very different styles, but these riders know each other so well.
Well, they kind of know how to play each other. They know what their poker hands are. We also know that Alberto Contador, Bertie, gives very little away, and quite often when he's feeling at his weakest, that's when he goes on the attack. It can be like a cheap rocket that comes straight back down to the ground without any fizz or flare, but there's plenty of that inside this man, and if he's not at the end of his tether at the moment, then he will go all in for another attack against Valverde. If it comes to the pair of them duking it out, the money's probably got to be on Valverde at the end of this long day, but they'll share duties right now and make it mano a mano, I think.
Well, did you see that? Alejandro Valverde was just sat pretty. These 2 riders, he looks the most relaxed, so Contador gestured for his fellow countrymen to take a turn on the front. It's just dipping down. There's a couple of little rolling sections on this climb. If you look behind the group, I think it's been led by Walt Poles. Looks like, no, it is. It's actually Rosa Poles is on the back of that group.
Yes.
One of the riders, I think it's Izaguirre, who's also in there for Bahrain Merida. And as you said, Rigoberto Urán of Canadel Drapac looking very relaxed in the green, sat 3rd wheel.
Yeah, nothing's expected, or not much expected of Rigoberto Urán, and you kind of do that at your cost. Ignore that man. He had a decent Valencia. He had a very good end to 2016 as well. He kind of finds his form, usually top and tail of the season, but it means he can bridge, if you like, the darker months. Let's put it that way. And Urán it is that is part of this quartet, and I think he's regarded as the least threat within them, and as a result he's got somewhere to hide from everybody else. Maybe just be given cut a little bit of slack, and if you give that to Urán, you do it at your peril. This is going to be about descending and holding your nerve.
It certainly is. Well, a bit of a stalemate here. The riders just, again, Contador glances around, just checks out the composition of this group, and it's a real roster of climbing talent. And the team with the biggest hand here, of course, is Team Sky. Well, Poles, distanced by Alberto Contador, now back in contact. Very impressed by Diego Rosa there. Lovely style on a bike, and there's a bigger group being led, it looks, by Thibaut Pinot, only a handful of seconds behind, but Valverde to me looks like to be the most dangerous rider from this group. Diego Rosa sitting pretty at the moment too.
Well, let's ask ourselves a question, shall we? Descending and time trialing, and it might take something like that to the line. Jon Izaguirre is a multifaceted gem of a rider. He's now with Bahrain Merida, we remind you. And when you think 5th in Paris-Nice, 3rd in Romandy, runner-up on the Tour of Switzerland, this guy's got so many points to get underneath his belt, and Contador goes again, and Valverde almost drifts with him, and staying with them, Diego Rosa, on debutante form, I think it's fair to say, and absolutely brilliant. Wants to prove something within Team Sky. But Poles also very much here, and Urán as well. These punches and counter punches that they're all issuing to each other. Essentially, we've got a master breakaway right now. We've got no gap right back to the remnants of the peloton, and there's riders all over this mountain. They've made it almost look flat on occasion, these guys.
They have. So that initial acceleration by Alberto Contador was mightily impressive. Testing the water, but of course if you attack from the bottom of the climb, there's really nowhere to hide. You either have to ignore the attack, get into your own rhythm, or you risk putting yourself into the red trying to follow that sort of speed, but a rider that is riding tempo, nice and steady, not that staccato style that we see Alberto Contador and Alejandro Valverde favour. Thibaut Pinot slowly but surely is making his way back into context.
Reichenbach's also here, just coming at the back of that group. You see a group of, there's Pinot, then there's four, a pair that have just been disengaged, and Reichenbach just getting onto the rear of them. I still think that the winner today is likely to come from this group out front, despite the efforts that they've put in. And Valverde looks absolutely menacing, doesn't he?
He does. He's just rolling that big gear. He looks the most relaxed. His face looks extremely composed. But look at Diego Rosa as well, very much in control. He takes the front. John Izagirre not happy at all. He knows the wheels to follow here. An ex-teammate, of course, of Alejandro Valverde. He will not give him an inch. Contador still sat in second wheel in the red. Uran looking mightily impressive and relaxed in the green as well. Takes a quick glance over his shoulder.
Well, right to relax, I think. Pauls as well on the blower a few moments ago. Almost like, how do you think we should play this, Dad? Dad's not saying. There's the road we're on, sinuous, painful almost. It's a great look to it. By the way, Strava, of course, have got their records up here, and Lawrence ten Dam holds it for Team Sunweb. Not sure what his climb time is for this. Have you got it?
Yeah, Lawrence ten Dam did this back in 2013, in fact, 32 minutes and 35 seconds. And that includes that flatter section at the start, but a long climb, 13 Ks in distance, average gradient 6%. But it's the last 2/3 that really start to rear up.
Teammates. Fabio Follini is back here as he's been offered up a little bit of respite, courtesy of Contador's efforts. Contador happy to allow himself to be guided. In fact, he's got a couple of teammates here as well. I don't think it's Irizarry, who was going backwards earlier on. 23.1 kilometres remaining. So we've got about 5 to go. We're on yet again another little flat section. In fact, with about a K to go, they actually go down before the last kick. Let's talk percentages as well of what they're dealing with, Matt.
Yeah, there's some more steep sections still to come, and that will suit the rider that's feeling good. I think this group will split again. I think we will see more attacks, but as you said, Carlton, with about a kilometre to go, it dips down. It's about a 500-metre section. It kicks up at 10-12% towards the line.
Right to relax, and that was Wout Poels, and he's decided to, I beg your pardon, you know, Diego,
Landa.
Yeah, well, they've got Michael Landa, they've got Wout Poels, they had Diego Rosa as well. This is unbelievable. This is him actually going for it. Michael Landa, given the get-go. Well, they were on the blower talking about strategy, and clearly, having bridged over, he's still got something left in the legs. Now, who's he working for? Is he working for himself? They've got so many options to follow, Team Sky. There is Uran still not being asked questions of. And Contador goes again with Valverde with him. Rigoberto Uran goes behind Landa, has a look over his shoulder, almost cheekily so. Their motorcycles having a good run just to find a gap there, quite frankly, as the riders spread across the road, not wanting to take on the duty. They're leaning on Contador at the moment, fascinating.
Definitely leaning on Contador. All that attack did from Mikel Landa. I think that's why we saw Wout Poels speaking to his teammate Diego Rosa, just saying, wait, we don't need to press on here. We've got Landa coming across the gap. They've got 3 riders now in the mix, and as each kilometre ticks by, they're going to be in a very, very strong position team-wise, but still around 3 Ks to go to the top of the climb. There, in fact, was the time indicating 3 Ks to the top, and it's all slowed down just a little bit. Who will be the next rider to attack? About 8 or 9 riders left in that front group.
Another one of these pesky switchbacks. Now, the average for the 11.2 kilometres is 6.3%, but there are kickers within this that get a lot more focus than that. And just before the crest is part of the steepest part of the climb, and we're approaching that right now, and Contador wants this. Uran as well is very much staying with him. And so the 3 that we called out earlier on, which is Contador, Valverde and Uran, they're in that line at the moment, and everyone else is trying to put the fire out. Sky, likewise, they've got plenty of personnel. Are they using them wisely? And is it something they can do this early in the season?
Well, it was interesting they let Landa come back on. What's happening now? Team Sky used to this smooth, even tempo, riding at a set wattage, as it were. But Landa uses the momentum, attacks on the left-hand side. Great move here. This is on one of these flatter sections, opens up a gap straight away.
Yeah, it's 4, 5, 6 bike lengths straight away, and Contador doesn't want to be anybody's fool. He's not going to chase everything down, and Sky are the ones that are issuing the hammer blows. The man who's resting up most of all is Wout Poels. He was on the blower earlier on, talking about strategy, maybe just saying, frankly, to Landa, get your backside up here. You can do a job for us later on. Maybe he'll help himself. If he gets over the top, don't count against him, because there's such a downhill run here. He's got to manage, what, 5 at the bottom, which is relatively flat on his own. That's the testing part, and that's why we're talking about time trialing ability and how useful it may be at the end of the day.
Well, Landa is going to be, I think it's a joint leader with Geraint Thomas for the Giro d'Italia, but on this section of the climb, it starts to flatten a bit. Good place to attack on the steeper section. It flattens, and then, of course, you've got that dip down before the run into the line. Good tactical move here by Landa, using the topography of the climb to his advantage. But the question is, who is going to be the rider that shuts the gap? This is a healthy lead that's Landa. Still Alberto Contador of Trek in the red and black, leading the chase behind.
I think they're all trying to mastermind the descent and, in fact, the run-in. Still, provided they stay within reasonable contact, you've got those 5 kilometres of virtual flat where it may well come down to just a very quick day. It's Sebastian Reichenbach who is in here, by the way, not Thibaut Pinot. He crashed in Valencia, and a lot of people were starting to say, well, maybe he's just taken too much of a knock from that. Pinot got sick there. Reichenbach had a crash. So both of them expected to do an awful lot better here in Andalucia, and they may well have something today. Reichenbach turned himself into, I don't know whether it was a one-off time trialing specialist, it seems, at Tirreno, but since then, Francis de Jure have had that kind of mental. Once they come off this descent, we're still climbing, don't forget, and we won't have unwound the climb for another 2k, then it's going to be a very, very pacey descent. And on these kind of roads, it's a good surface, and at least it's dry today, and there's no wind, which means there's no dust. That's the danger. If that gets, you can see it just at the side of the road here, where some of the motorcycles perhaps have dragged a little bit on. There's Thibaut Pinot just latching back in, but Reichenbach is solid within it. They're just about to come up to the a sub-crest, not the peak, Matt.
No, not the peak. It flattens out just a little bit, goes from 16% to around 3%, 1%, then drops down. Then there is a little bit of a descent for about 500 metres, and then the last kilometre kicks up to about 12% again. An interesting rider also in this move, Bahrain Merida, have 2 riders in there. We've seen Jan Izagirre. They've also got Ondrej Šink of the Czech Republic in the move.
Number 13, unlucky for some. Maybe you should have turned one of those numbers upside down.
Clearly not superstitious,
Yeah,
Carl.
precisely. Well, good for him. So Michael Landa, unzipped and ready for action here, and he's been called on a number of occasions. Is this interesting as well? You see the close-up livery, by the way, of Team Sky, and we look further down the order. That's Peter Wiening that's also managing to get back on. These are good riders. Warren Barguil is also here. Now, he can descend like a nutcase, quite frankly. Let's see how he goes. Javier Moreno is also getting back in. Pressure still being held here, and that's Contador, and it looks like Oran is just off the back of this group at the moment. It will get pacier before we get to the very, very top, but we're nearly there.
We are. It's just picking up again now. Contador's gradually clawing the gap back. Looks like Landa's gone again. Just before the gap was closed, Landa accelerates, stamps on the pedals. Now it's Rigoberto Urán who's been distanced. Great ride in by Reichenbach to stay in that move, but Contador brings him back to heel again.
Check this out as well, as Reichenbach remains part of the action. Thibaut Pinot, unfortunately, caught out, but Alberto Contador, if you're going to help anyone, then help yourself, and that's what he's doing right now. 20.8 kilometres remaining. The low sunshine casting long shadows, and it's a long shadow by all of these great riders that's cast over everybody. We're expecting Contador and Valverde to be the principals, and they're right up here at the pointy end as they this road that's been cut through this mountain. And indeed, it'll be some savage blows that are laid, I'm sure, by these guys who are all bar wielding cutlasses at the moment. They are fighting for every single inch of this mountain. It's a joy to see.
It's great. Well, Landa was caught. He's now been detached, as had Rigoberto Urán, but the Sky Rider in that little quartet out in front is Diego Rosa. Also there is Jan Izagirre, and matching Alberto Contador, pedal red for pedal red at the moment, is Alejandro Valverde. That's your quartet out in front.
Wow. What a joyful start to this race. Andalucia, it's almost like they lit the bonfire before the food was ready. Unbelievable. And feasting themselves as they do. I'm afraid it's starvation moment for Rigoberto Urán. Can he recover over the top? He's just got to get there. We know that in the old days he used to be able to time trial brilliantly. He's a decent descender as well, the Colombian, in this kind of sharp, bright weather. A little bit cooler up here, 20 Celsius in the valleys. This is about 16 Celsius over the top. And is this over the top?
Well,
what they're doing now.
It's absolutely fantastic action. Right from the bottom, we saw Alberto Contador showing his colours. We sensed he would be a rider to attack because of Trek Segafredo riding so hard and for so long on the front, but being urged on by this partisan crowd here. This is fantastic. Who's going to be the rider to launch the next attack?
Well, it could be any one of these guys, but what have they got left in the tank? That's the big question. They're trying to pick it up. Rosa decides to dig deep again. Debutant, don't forget, for his season for Team Sky. He'll want a good result, and what a way to do it, to come into this day. There he is wearing number 17 with the blue stripe of Sky. By the way, they've got something that looks like Morse code across their back. It's not. Each of the dashes represents victories in classics and indeed stage races. A very brief sit down on the saddle for Alberto Contador, out of character for him. He usually likes to bounce on his toes all the way up. Jon Izagirre very much still here. I guess if you're looking for a useful man at the very end, it's probably Izagirre will be hoping to do it for Bahrain Merida, his new team, and a new team to many.
Indeed, it's an interesting lineup they've got in that squad. Of course, it's the squad of multiple Grand Tour winner Vincenzo Nibali, but of course Izagirre will be the man in this race and clearly climbing well. This is that this small descent before the last kilometre to the line, and it's still Alberto Contador. Nobody willing at the moment, Carlton, to assist in the pacemaking. This is three riders who are trying to get back into contact. Andre Sink is there, also Sebastian Reichenbach and Rigoberto Urán. But again, if those riders can keep these other riders in sight, I think they should be able to get back in contact on the descent.
Well, the ground granite that they hewn out of this mountain has formed this what looks like a bleached white road from the top, and it's respite. They're taking a rest before the 13% final push, which will be the sort of golden kilo here. This is not the descent just yet. They'll come down into the dip, if you like, into the dish, and then come up, and it may well be one served cold for plenty here. We will see. You can see the snow hanging on to the mountain sides as well. Hasn't quite melted and produced that water rush that you get that keeps this land actually fed throughout the hotter months. You can see from the bleached trees here that have shed their bark. It really is a hostile environment. No trees at all out there, but look at this. What are they building for us? We're building up to this little kilo climb to the top, and then it's all hell for leather to the finale in Granada.
Well, this is an opportunity for the riders to get a real bit of momentum. So 3 Team Sky riders now in this front group, and this is where it kicks up, goes up to about 13 and 14% that last 800 or 900 meters, but carrying a lot of speed onto the climb. So they've already eaten several hundred meters of the climb, but this is the key part. Who's got enough power to try and attack and detach themselves from the front? Then it's a 18.5k plummet to the line.
Well, as they approach and regather themselves for this assault, we'll take a brief break and we'll be back with you for the crest and the descent. Alejandro Valverde decided to pick it up. They all rejoined. It was looking quite benign, so it looked like an apposite time to take a commercial break. And now we are back for the crest. And guess who's up there? Almost like a cockatoo, I guess, showing his, is Valverde with Contador on his wheel. And yet again, it's these two strongest of the pack. They're going to take the crest, and then maybe they might bring it home. That's Jon Izagirre, fantastic time trialist for Bahrain Merida, who is the man that's closest to them at the moment. Sebastian Reichenbach is still there. He's 5th place at the moment as they come over the top. Don't want any drink, don't want to rest for it. In fact, Contador does take some sustenance. And here we go. This is our descent. You are with us for the remainder. 18.1 kilometers, less than that now. Bang on, in fact. Let's see how they go. They can both descend pretty well. Let's see how these guys cope, trying to stay in touch on this run for home.
Well, it's quite a tricky little descent. You can just look at the road surface here. It's quite a lot of broken tarmac, little runoffs to the side, twisty and turny. You're going to have nerves of steel.
We've crested. Valverde and Contador it was that went over the top together, and indeed we've got 5 riders now that are strung out just as we head down into the woodland section. The woodland here, by the way, fresh buds upon the trees produce these little tiny shells which have a little bit of oil about them, sort of sap if you like, and it can make for nasty skittery surfaces. Thankfully they're on a better surface right now, and it's highway all the way, and it may be a high 5 as well for these guys. There goes Valverde. Valverde. He's actually sprung the coupe. He's away from Contador now. How much of a risk does Contador want to take today? He's getting himself into that aero position, still pedaling even on the descent here, desperate to catch up with Valverde, who just disappears around the headland. Valverde is a master, especially at this time of year. He comes into a season always extraordinarily fresh. It's because he does not rest up, and he's not resting right now.
Well, he absolutely loves racing. He's so aggressive. We know that he maintains his form throughout the season, doesn't like to train, just loves to race, loves the smell of victory. Took a remarkable win last week, of course, in the Tour of Murcia. 70-kilometre solo breakaway, showed some absolutely amazing descending skills as well as bunny hopping skills. That almost went viral on the internet. Look at this. It looks like Contador is Froome.
It is. Contador has seen Froome do this last year on the Tour de France, and now they practice this, by the way. They're aero pedaling, but I guess in Wintels as well as here. But yeah, he didn't look overly comfortable there, did he? But no. Valverde looks the more powerful at the moment, and he's fully focused. Look at this. 16 kilometres to go. Now, when he hits the flat, he's still got to bring home 5 without the assistance of gravity.
He has, but he is a rider that can do it. We know he can ride particularly well in short time trials. He's clearly full of confidence at the moment, and he's opened a gap. Alberto Contador at the moment is struggling to get back into contact with a flying rider. Here's what's happened behind. Look at the gaps behind.
There. Yeah.
Izagirre is joined up with Contador.
It's closing up. They are starting to catch at least Contador, but can they catch Alejandro Valverde? A man, of course, who won this race in 2012, then again in 13, made it a hat-trick in 14, took a break in 15, came back last year, decided to do the business again. In fact, then he left it until the final stage. This time, not a bit of it. Straight out of the box, he's boxing.
It's an incredible rider, Alejandro Valverde. I think this is Diego Rosa, a little bit further down the descent. It is Rosa indeed, with those long white socks. What a lovely, superb rider he is. He looks like he's going to get back into contact with Izagirre and Alberto Contador just in front, taking risks on these corners. But as you said, Valverde, Carlton, is one of those riders. He can ride the high mountains so well, but the short, steep climbs of the Ardennes, he puts the kind of explosive effort that he has to good use on the final pitches of the climb, and Contador struggling to get back in contact.
Valverde then is in control at the moment, but for how much longer? And indeed, will everyone else form themselves into a team time trialing unit to get back at him? That is a spectacular picture. You saw his shoulder almost graze the Armco on the inside, and look at this. He's actually dart-like almost, and so in control of his own emotions, and indeed his skill set. Descending is something you can learn. You can learn to be very good at it, but the best are naturals, and he is. You
just got to be at one with your bike. You've got to be relaxed. You can't be tense. You need to, and of course, on a road like this, it's all about focusing, looking up ahead, thinking about the line you're going to take through the corners, and taking the shortest route down the descent. Of course, these riders have the luxury of riding on open roads. They'll take that racing line, cutting the apexes of the corners, and taking risks in the process as well. Riveting stuff.
Spinning out to the other side. You never quite know how a corner is going to unwind. He had plenty to play with there. This road is about 4 lanes wide if you take into consideration the runoff, and thankfully everyone's come down cleanly. You're quite right, Matt. When you're descending, you are thinking, if you're a good descender, much further ahead. You're not worried about where you are now, you're worried about where you're going to be. And the poor descenders are worried about where they are now. It's almost like a snooker player thinking several shots ahead. These guys are thinking corners ahead, and they're relaxed about where they happen to be right now, and that's why they just have that edge.
So I'm just looking at this. It looks like wacky races. It is. We know that it is aerodynamically proven to be superior. It's very, very risky indeed, but it's the only way they can get back in contact with a flying Alejandro Valverde. 87 kilometers an hour.
90, just nudging, unbelievable. Well, you better believe it, and everybody else likewise, because Alejandro Valverde has put down a huge marker here. Let's hope let's hope it is valid by the end of today, because these guys are going to ask him a big question as they try and close the gap. Izagirre is brilliant, and he can time trial, as we have mentioned, and he's well within sight. Here we are, Izaguirre just cleaning the old nasal passages as well, as if he's ready for battle. And Valverde's gonna have company. Contador has ridden brilliantly, powering his way down this this descent here.
Well, it's an all Spanish pursuit, 2 versus 1. They've got him in their sights around 6 seconds. It says, I think it's around 4 or 5 seconds, but 6 seconds will take at the moment. But they have, on these long straight sections of road, got him in their sights. And then, as you say, Carlton, the last 5 clay is primarily flat to the finish, but straight as well, so they will keep him in their sights. The last 1,500 metres as straight as a die.
They don't want to bring Valverde to a cage fight at the end because he'll have them. So I think if Izaguirre and Alberto Contador manage to close this gap and it becomes a trio of godlike descenders, then it's going to be up to Izaguirre, I think, to go long, or indeed for Valverde to try and hold on to them and mug them at the very last, and he will.
You wonder what he was looking around there. He makes it look effortless. He's so still, so steady on his bike, putting that power through. But no, it looks like Diego Rosa has now joined the Alberto Contador group, and they are going to make contact with Valverde, who is now waiting for the other trio.
So a quartet, top 4, probably 10.4 to find out. This is a roller coaster road, and we've got a little flat section. It's going to get very focused in just a few moments' time. And Bertie's coming by to say, ha, see that? See what I did there? Bridged over to you, no problem whatsoever. This will have taken a lot out of these guys, believe me, and we're going to see a great finale in a few moments' time. Diego Rosa, on his debut for Sky, we said he'd like to bill himself as being, well, useful throughout the season. More than that, he's here on the very first stage in Sky colours of his new Sky career, and he wants to make waves.
He's looking very, very good. It's interesting, he dropped to the back. Alejandro Valverde forced a little gap to open, making Rosa close the gap. It will be interesting to see if Rosa contributes to the pace-making here, because remember, not too far up the road, or back down the road, sorry, he has Mikel Landa and also Wout Poels. I don't think he'll do too many pulls. He might just roll through occasionally, maybe assist just on the descent, but I think on the flat, we may see Diego Rosa sit back. It'll be very interesting to see how Rosa plays it here. 1 Italian and 3 Spaniards, of course, in this league group.
Well, we were talking about the right to rest because they had so many teammates together for Team Sky, and Rosa did his fair share up that last mountain, but right now he's got his own little stage to play upon. But what leading men he surrounds himself with Valverde, Contador, and of course Jon Izaguirre, a man who, frankly, I hate to say this, I was disappointed to see him go to Bahrain Merida, but guess what? If he wins today and indeed goes on to do well in this race, and he's got the full skill set, including time trialing, a great season last year, so why not? And in fact, it's he that comes to the fore at the moment. He's starting to punish them, driving on. This is a fantastic way to start this race. We've got more to come. Tomorrow is the Queen Stage up the Aguilla. Then we've got the short time trial, which will be brutal. May well decide, maybe between these 4, who's going to have the bragging rights for the run for home to Sevilla and then to Coin as we finish this race here in Andalucia. What an explosive start.
This
Breathless.
This is absolutely fantastic stone stuff. As you say, Carlton, a very, very strong quartet out in front. The top, riding it down this turn around 70 kilometres an hour. But as I said, Diego Rosa not willing to work with this group. Flicks his elbow, has a look across at Jon Izaguirre, just thinking back to that remarkable stage win that Izaguirre had to Morzine in the Tour de France last year, where he left Fantano and Vincenzo Nibali for dead on that wet descent. A real talented descender as well as time trialist, but looking pretty good. But should this come back down to a sprint, you've got to think it's Valverde is the favourite. But here it gets Reichenbach and Wout Poels trying to get back in contact.
Reichenbach as well is a super strong rider. He's going to get stronger and stronger throughout this race, but the trouble is developing strength is one thing, but you've got to be fresh, box fresh if you like, and maybe box clever too. Wout Poels just riding on. I wonder if Rosa will be minded to help his teammate later on, or whether he's just going to get carried away as part of a team time trialing unit, which they will form, provided they can get this alliance sorted out. They're afraid of Izaguirre here.
They are afraid of Izaguirre again. It's interesting, I think we should mention at this point in the race, no time bonuses on offer at all. It's clearly going to be some significant time gaps at the head of affairs today. We've got the TT the day after tomorrow, and that brutally difficult finish tomorrow as well. So no time bonifications needed, but Diego Rosa here sitting on, waiting now, 13 seconds to the group behind, and Alejandro Valverde Arguably, if you look at the TT prowess of these riders, you've got to look at Valverde and Izagirre as favourites. So Izagirre in a very good position at the moment.
Time gap's coming down 10 seconds. We've shed 4 in short order because these guys are looking at each other. And I'm wondering, once you factor in the likes of Sebastian Reichenbach at the end here, a man who sort of lives under the shadow, really, of Thibaut Pinot, his principal teammate, but he's here wearing number 57. And Mark Poels as well, great strength in abundance across all kinds of terrain. He probably would have preferred a more of a lumpy finish, especially with Valverde. If this comes to the line, my money's going to have to drift towards Rosa versus Valverde for the sprint for the line, but count none of these guys out of it, because you're never quite sure at this part of the season about form. They may be approaching their best, but who is absolutely the best today? We'll find out in just over 5Ks.
Well, the strongest rider to me looks like it is Alejandro Valverde. Those are devastating attacks on the climb. Clearly, Contador is feeling good, but should it come down to a sprint, as we said before, Valverde is going to be your man. But the danger man at the moment, and the rider sat in the slipstream of the 3 Spaniards, is the Italian Diego Rosa. As you say, 27 years of age now, making his debut for Team Sky. And what an impressive debut it is. But of course, he has his teammate behind. 7 seconds is the gap. Now, will the other 2 riders, will Reichenbach and Poels get in contact?
Great to see an insect on a camera lens. You know the spring is coming. In fact, you get a few of those in your teeth. Well, they're carrying, I guess, pirate style, a veritable knife between their teeth at the moment, because they have brought their weaponry to this one, and it's going to be brutal. 4.5 kilometres to go. Let's talk about the run-in. There is a pesky roundabout with 350 metres to go. They've got to take that, almost like that pesky fruit wasp. He needs to get out of there so we can keep an eye on these guys. A quartet with 6 seconds. They're going to be joined in a few moments' time by Poels and Reichenbach. It's going to become a sextet, and what a run for home this is going to be. You're looking at the head of the race right now. I think to go long, it's going to have to be Jon Izagirre. If he doesn't, then he's likely to get mugged, and everyone else is, I think, by Valverde.
I think just looking at the way that Izagirre was pulling on the front there, all of these 3 Spanish riders in the group, Contador, Valverde, Izagirre, working really hard on the front. They know the other 2 riders behind are a little bit of a danger, but they also have to be worried about this rider sat in 4th place, Diego Rosa of Team Sky.
Wow, 3.7 to go. It's going to be 6 in the run for home. We drew some highlight pens, of course, over those that we thought may well be a feature in this race. And every single one of these guys has had our thoughts before we even started. There's not that many, maybe about 20 riders to consider, but we really have got the cream of the crop right here, right now.
It's great. These early season races are absolutely fantastic. And well, Poels, last turn, last roll of the dice, just trying to eat into that lead, just closing that gap. So some really shrewd riding there by Diego Rosa. Team Sky are the squad with the upper hand now, but with 3Ks to go, will we now see Team Sky assist with the pacemaking, or are they going to wait? A little bit of a lull here. We don't know where the other riders are. If they stop working now, Carlton, other riders could get back into contact. Riders like Rigoberto Urán, for example.
It's very late. Who's your pick?
Valverde.
Me too. Who's your cider?
Cheeky side bet, Reichenbach.
You've done it again, haven't you? You can see me pointing at him. 2.7 kilometres to go.
But Team Sky are the team that need to try and come away with this victory. Right. They need to sort it out amongst themselves. It's going to be very interesting.
I'm going to go for Izagirre just as a cheeky one. But anyway, they pick it up, and it's Diego Rosa on his debut that pushes on. This is all helping, don't forget, about Poels, who I guess has allowed a bit of respite. They're the new boys in this sextet. Reichenbach is at the back at the moment, but possibly for not much longer. He's just getting a good bit of vision here. Now here's one of the roundabouts. They're going to go under this one, so they'll pass under this as we come into Granada. Shame we're not finishing at the Alhambra Palace. 2.2 kilometres to go. They'll go later. So will we. 2.1 kilometres remaining. A quick check over the shoulder by Wout Poels. I think he was possibly ejecting, just clearing his sinuses. That's the polite way of saying it. Valverde is clearly the danger here, and I think he is. He's going to take this. But unless Izagir goes on an early one, but it's too late right now. He'd have to be doing it right now with 1.8 to go. 350, they have to take a roundabout. They do go over it, but that's a difficult thing to master. Poles is tightening up his shoes as well. Valverde's already there. He's picking up the pace. Looking at them now, it's Rosa that's gone off the front. Also here is Contador, and bridging over to them is Jon Izagir. Well, he'd have to go by them straight away right now if you're going to have a chance. You can't bring... if you're in a knife fight, you've got to be fully tooled up, and every single box of that is ticked by Alejandro Valverde at the moment.
Well, I think what was happened here, Diego Rosa has had a bit of a conversation. This is a long straight run into the line now, and when you think about the prowess of Wout Poels in the sprint, look back to Liège-Bastogne-Liège where he outpaced in completely different conditions, of course. He is sitting pretty, he's waiting for the sprint, but just behind him, there we go.
Rijkenbach over the top, he's going for a long one. He had to do this, to be honest. Well, he can time trial, but Valverde goes with him. Oh, Rijkenbach still pulls out a bit of a gap. Valverde starts to panic because he knows he's offering up aero assistance to those behind him, and sailing straight into the void. Brilliantly so, Contador does so, and closing down the gap, Jon Izagir, who takes a last gel as if to say, I don't need this, I don't need this. Look, I can have myself a snack. 800 meters to go, and Rijkenbach, good little bit of a cattle prod to everybody out there just to keep them on their toes. The man who did least work there, of course, for Wout Poels. Now, when will he go? 700 meters to go, possibly just before the roundabout, because if you're going to try and go round a rider, that's not the place to do it. That will leave him 300 meters once that unwinds to get to the line. We'll be at the roundabout in 150.
Well, it's a Rijkenbach on the back, not a hard enough attack for me. Pretty much telegraphed his move, and it wasn't too hard for Alejandro Valverde to bring him back, and it is Valverde, the out-and-out favourite, the fastest rider as they come into the last 400 metres.
Izagir goes for it, Rosa's out of the saddle as well, and Poels is picking this up. Poels is going for it, he's got Rijkenbach in the white just behind him. Valverde's starting to fade here, is he? He's holding on to it for the time being. Poels is coming through. Oh, and Valverde kicks again and delivers. Oh, outstanding stuff. Valverde takes it ahead of Poels. Oh, what a superb day this has been. Rosa in the frame, so was Rijkenbach. Virtually nothing to choose between them. No bonus seconds here, don't forget. So the battle will rage on as we go at Pena del Aguila tomorrow. What a race, what a day, and what an opener to the Vuelta Andalucia. Gracias, I think we need to say to everybody.
Well, it's a big doff of the cap all round. What a superb stage. That was Mikel Landa of Team Sky. So some real good climbers, haven't been too distanced. Many riders spread all over the road, but I think it was Weening who crossed the line as well. So lots of riders still in contention. Here is the sprint, just sheer and utter brute force and power from Alejandro Valverde. Remember, this is a kind of rider who can win small bunch sprints, takes it by a length and a half from Wout Poels. Think it was Diego Rosa who just snatched third place ahead of Sebastian Rijkenbach. This is all about power, all about explosivity, punches the air with delight, nearly throws himself off his bike in the process. What a win by Alejandro Valverde. 2 out of 2 for him.
Wow, he almost hit the barriers here. Here's the celebration. The Colombian fans are just on an indented part of the hoardings. He got away with it. And indeed, he bridged, I should say, nobody could bridge to him. He was out of the saddle and back in it as if it was on fire, to be honest. He was trying to get the drive. He was clearly exhausted at the end, but he had more than everybody else. And I think that is the truth of it. And indeed, maybe the tale to tell. The winner of this race is likely to come from that group, I would have thought, by the end of these 5 stages.
It does look like it. Let's watch these riders come across the line. It's our rider on the right in the centre of the screen for Sunweb. It looks like Sam Oomen was in that group. Another group of 25 to 30 riders. This field completely exploded on that final climb of the day.
There is the last seat of the Moorish Empire in Spain, Granada, where the king of the Moors was set on a boat and headed back to Africa. And his mum told him off, said you were useless, it was your fault. Well, I don't think anyone was at fault in that group at the end, but they just came up against a stellar talent that always starts the season so strongly because he doesn't rest. Alejandro Valverde, he races to keep his form, and he races all year. There's no downtime for that man, and he's on the up again.
Yeah, not imperious form today. A real tactical display as well. Followed Contador rather than attacking. Alberto Contador showed his hand, but we know that Alberto Contador had to attack. Here is the winner today. This is when he distanced Contador in the last few hundred meters of the climb today. And it looked at one point as if he might actually ride away to another victory solo. A real profile of descending prowess, sat on the top tube there of his canyon.
Well, thanks to all of you, by the way, who've spared us your thoughts. So much was happening. It was so dramatic. We never got to you today.
Did we?
Yeah, we didn't.
No social media today.
At Real Stevens or at Carlton Kirby, if you'd like to spare your thoughts on today. But for my mind, this day and possibly this race belongs to Mr. Andalucia, Alejandro Valverde. He's won it 4 times in the last 5 years. He may well win it again because the power he displayed at the very end, all credit to Reichenbach as well, a great strength towards the end. He finished in 3rd place, but I think all these guys will be given the same time, possibly a second difference. I don't think so, but I think it'll all be the same time for those 6. And really, when you look at the names that we've got here, Izagirre, Contador, Valverde, Poles, Rosa, Reichenbach, to my mind, you're looking at potentially one of those carrying the title here, but we will only know more on this fascinating story as the pages are turned over the next 4 stages that are still to come. Valverde takes it with the same time for Poles, Reichenbach, Rosa and Izagirre. What a race.
It was
Contador
fantastic.
also in there, as you can see, at the same time. And then Thibaut Pinot keeps his hopes alive with a 5-second gap. Michael Landa likewise. Rigoberto Urán also part of that quartet. I think it was a sextet, wasn't it? No, it was a quartet. Peter Wiening, I think, 24 seconds in this kind of terrain with these guys on this kind of mood.
Great ride.
Yeah, but I don't